So now that we know how we can build our site and what the implications are, let's take a look at general deployment steps and considerations, no matter how you will build your site. The first step should always be that you double check all your pages. You make sure you added all the head metadata to all your pages, titles, descriptions, whatever else you might need. Of course, you want to optimize your code, remove console log statements, shrink it as much as possible, things like that. And you want to remove unnecessary dependencies and make your code as small and optimized as possible. So that is step number one. Now, once you did that, there is another kind of related step, which I still want to list as a separate step. You want to double check your configuration, and you especially want to consider working with environment variables for data that might not be the same during development and during production. For example, in our blog application, we have an API route where I connect to a database, and at the moment, the way I connect here is always the same. My connection string is hard-coded in the API route. So I always use the same user, the same cluster, the same database. It's more realistic that I want to use some development dummy database during development and switch to a different database and maybe also an entirely different cluster and user for production. And therefore we want to swap this connection string dynamically depending on the environment in which we're running. And that is something where environment variables will be able to help us. Another use case could be API keys, if you're using the Google Maps SDK, for example. These are things which you might want to manage with environment variables. And therefore, that is, of course, also something we're going to explore in this course section. Now, once you did all of that, you should do a test build and test your production-ready app on your local machine. Since you just need a Node server for running it, and we already have Node.js installed, building and running the application is rather straightforward. And we should do that to make sure that everything works, that we're happy with the file sizes, with the code bundle sizes, and so on. Now, that step, of course, can involve that you go back to step one and implement further optimizations. Now, once you're happy with all of that, then it's time to finally deploy. That is roughly how the deployment process will look like. And that, therefore, is the process and the list we will go through over the next lectures.